as a brand leader, that's something that any marketer is also, in the brand building business. But every interaction with your sales team, support team, customer success team, accounting team, anybody that they talk to, anybody that a customer talks to even once, even infrequently, is representing your brand. And you need to, it's so much of it is out of marketing control, right?
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, here we go. I'm excited. I don't know when this is airing, but this is the first time we get to chat in the new year. Let's go. I know for sure this episode is not going to air last year, so I think I'm safe to say happy 2025, everybody. This is going to be a great episode, great conversation. I can't wait to introduce my guest today. He's an absolute badass. What a great way to start the year. How do I feel about this guy? Let me tell you. Well, he sees challenges. He's like, well, let me go ahead and create a process to address that. Streamline everything, get rid of all the friction, make it nice and smooth. And that's how you scale companies. Who is he? What does he do? Well, he's a marketing leader, a thought leader. He's a growth driver. And not just saying that, he's got the metrics to prove it. Recently generated over $2 million in pipeline, a first year in. And this was at an automation startup, like amazing. Also organic traffic up by 50%, expanding LinkedIn by 25%. If you want any of these numbers, I suggest you learn with me on this episode. VP of Marketing and Growth at SightView Software, Nick Peddle. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, the great intro. And yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, you're busy. You're doing things and all this. I almost lost myself in your stats because I was just like, dang, that's a really impressive number. So here, let me shut up here and pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know we're all working out because it's 2025. Oh, okay, here you go. You want to grab that?
All right,
Take
there
Thor's
it is.
Hammer?
There it is.
Here you go. Okay. Take Thor's hammer, Nick, and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right. COVID hit. We weren't prepared for it. Things changed in a hurry. We're on the other side of it. People think that coming out of the pandemic and just being in 2025 now, that in-person events, live in-person events, trade shows, conferences are dead, but they are not. I'll tell you what we see in the ophthalmology and optometry space is that this industry is very community focused. It is a big communal group of people that want to get together in person. They want to learn from each other. They're not, you bring doctors in from all over the country. They're not competitors. They're not in competition with one another. There we go. They're lifelong learners. These are doctors. And I'm sure, this is specific in what I see. I'm telling you what I see in this industry, working with doctors and eye doctors in particular. But it's true in many other industries, I'm sure, is that these events are not dead. They are here to stay. People are still, the organizations, these trade groups are still hosting them. People are still coming. They're still flocking to them. And they are still a great way as a marketer to get in front of your audience and have a very captive audience. And so, yeah, events are here to stay.
Hell yeah, man. Where do you think this myth comes from? Where did it come from where everyone's like, oh, they're dead? No, I mean, I guess they did die, but why are people thinking that they haven't just blossomed back up?
Yeah, I mean, out of necessity, of course, they died, but it's 2025. That was 5 years ago. There's a reason why these events happened in the first place. And maybe they look different. Maybe they've evolved. It's easier to connect with people now over technology. So maybe we don't need all of the same features and pieces of a given event, but there's no substitute for meeting in person and shaking people's hands and having a face-to-face conversation. Zoom, digital tools are great, but to really get in the same room as people. And so I think some people, and maybe in some industries, they're still more relevant than they are in others. But again, from where I sit and what I see, they're here and they're not going anywhere. And I think people don't want to travel as much, but that's, the travel has rebounded as well. So you know, they died temporarily, but they came back to life with a vengeance. As soon as people had the opportunity to travel to conferences and trade shows, again, they did. And, digital events were a lot of these conferences that went online. It worked, but it didn't work as well. And so out of necessity, it worked, but if you don't have that same level of connection. So, people, there's a lot of talk whether they're here to stay. They're expensive. So I think some people don't want to invest in them, think that they can find better investments. But again, especially in working with eye doctors, they're here and they're not going anywhere. We actually had a customer come up and ask us if the company was in trouble financially because our booth was smaller one year than it had been in the past. And so people take notice, and they really want to see you there. They want to talk to you. We connect with, we get to drive new business from events, but we also get to talk to our own customers at industry trade shows, and they like to see us. They like to come meet with us in person.
You brought up a great point about the virtual not being the same, and yeah, there's something about it. And then you said this key part, which I would just, it makes so much sense. You said the online worked out of necessity, because I mean, such a good point, because it came around and we're all kind of like, well, what are we going to do? We still want to connect and meet. I mean, connection is so important. We still want to meet with people. So we just made do. But I mean, talk to me about what is it about, why is it better in person, or why, what is that? It just feels better in person,
There are just connections you can make that you can't make online. And especially with meeting new people, having new conversations with people, or even reconnecting. Yeah, you and I can hop on a Zoom call and have a virtual coffee. You have your Cumberland Farms. Shout out to Cumberland Farms Coffee.
Sponsor.
At the New England shout out. But, I think you can connect one-on-one, and you can also replicate a classroom of sorts. People, with webinars, and webinars are great, but to have the networking, it just, you can try to force it. And there are the tools that got really innovative. I was in some online events during COVID that felt more like a Second Life or a virtual room where you like a real avatar, you go up to talk to people. And again, innovation, it was cool, but it just isn't the same. And people just need that connection. They're social beings, for the most part. And so to be able to have those conversations, to learn something from someone, to just meet meet a new face, make a new friend, make a new business contact. Like, that is just so hard to replicate online. And again, I applaud the innovation, but it just didn't work the same.
Yeah, a lot of what it couldn't do is exactly what we were talking about. That it was almost the random encounters. You mentioned the coffee. Like, you and I meet, we're both filling up coffee in the middle of a conference, and we just strike up a conversation. Holy crap, you do this, I do this. Well, hey, why don't we connect these people? And it's quick. And so maybe it's just, hey, have a great conference. And maybe it's actually, tell me more about that. Let's talk, and maybe let's skip the next session and let's just keep this is really interesting, right? And you have the ability to do that, whereas you just don't randomly, or if you do, it's hard to build that in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the same webinar as somebody, like, you don't connect with them. You don't talk to them. You join, you learn, and you go to your own kitchen at your own house or your own office and get your coffee there, and that's it, right? You sit in, you learn, you listen, and you leave. And there is no between session, running somebody in the hall, running somebody filling up coffee. So yeah, I mean, there's really no substitution for it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the random encounter that's kind of hard to track, but so powerful. Even the after hour parties and whatnot. I think there's been people I've met. One particular person, I remember this from like a Dreamforce party. We actually met 2 years in a row at this after party, and just hit it off. Fun guy, we were partying, no big deal, weren't connecting. But the second time it happened, we're like, dude, all right, what do you do?
Yeah. And it organically shifted from a personal conversation to a work conversation.
Yeah. And that was just fantastic. So yeah, those things are really hard to necessarily track, but I think it's that intrinsic thing that we all learn, yearn for as humans, but then also can really appreciate. Yeah, yeah, and that's just the random encounters. But there's that you mentioned the booth, right? So people really seeing the value of you showing up big and showing up at that booth, maybe having a giveaway. There's something about that that says, "Hey, market leader," right? Or market mover.
Exactly. And the in our industry, the big pharmaceutical companies have the multi-story booth with the espresso line or the mocktails, and they're there to make a statement, and they have fun booths, and nothing against it. I mean, that's a great way to draw people in. But there's for those of us who have the more modest, the 10 by 10, the 20 by 20, even like those types of booths. It's an opportunity for us to present ourselves and to show our best self and to just connect with them. And people are walking by, they're walking the show. Sometimes, you strike up a conversation. The sales team admittedly is a lot better at this than I am. So they usually are doing this heavy lifting of, they step out into the hall, they step out into the walkway and invite people to come in. And some people just wave you off and, say that, no, thanks. And other people are just, again, like you said, at the party, like you just strike up a conversation. They may not be shopping for an EHR software, electronic health records, which is what SightView makes. But you might just plant a seed in their head and you scan the badge and you add them to the nurture emails after the fact. And, you get from that kind of to geek out on the marketing side of it, but you can get, that one positive interaction at a trade show can give you 5 or 6 more throughout the year for somebody who's not even in market for your software, for your product. But then you see them again the next year, like your Dreamforce friends. Like then they come back again, and then you say, oh, like I had a positive interaction with people. I like these people. They know what they're talking about. And then when the next time they are shopping, we've warmed that lead not only through the online tools, and we've invited them to webinars that we've had, and we've emailed them and we've connected with them, but then in person at the next one. These, again, in the eye care industry, it's very community focused. So, if we're going to 8 or 9 shows a year, half of those are for the optometry industry, half of them are for ophthalmology. And so we have opportunities to connect and reconnect. So we're having these positive interactions that marketers just yearn for, that, they're bigger, more impactful in person, but then, they're also, we can keep them going throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny. I laughed when you mentioned the 2-story booth. I, I think a lot of times when we see those things, it's like, get the free coffee, but then it's just, I think we all intuitively know that if they can afford that, they're probably charging us too much and something's going on. So I really enjoy that sort of the mid-size booths where you can sort of walk by and I'm looking left and right and my head's on a swivel because there's just so many different apps and tools that I can check out and maybe I don't even know what they do, and might this help me with one of my issues? Like it's almost like shopping, but in a more shopping for clothes, count me out, but like shopping for SaaS or some kind of solution to help me out in business. I'm all about it. And I love seeing those things. And maybe I pick up a stuffed dinosaur for my kids on the way in the process.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the other thing that I'll point out is that, there's a lot of value. There's a slow time. It's the keynote address is going on in the next hall over. And, the exhibitors are still just kind of waiting during a slow time during the show. And, I've gone and get to meet the other exhibitors, and it might be a new partnership opportunity. It might be a medical device that we don't currently integrate with our software, but there's no reason why we don't. It's just we haven't done it yet, right? We haven't started up that partnership, we haven't struck up that conversation. And so there's
huge point.
There's a ton of value in just being around the other vendors, and just making contacts. I know there's always, in all software space, some more than others, but there's resellers to meet. There's, channel partners, there's integration partners, there's no shortage. And you just never know, again, the same type of thing. You never know where that conversation that you start, you exchange business cards, and it may start a fruitful, mutually beneficial relationship that you wouldn't have come across them. They might be brand new in the space. They may just be entering the space, entering the market from somewhere, or they might be brand new. And, just there's so much value that you can't predict those. You don't know when those are going to come or where they're going to come from. So it might not just be a new business opportunity, but new partnership opportunity.
Yeah, and then you come back and, hey, guess what, guys? We're doing this, or this is like, things can happen at these events. Well, curious that you definitely have done a lot of them. You've got that experience. You've got the metrics to prove it. What are your like go-tos? Like, how do we do this the right way? Right? How do we approach events in a way that like kicks ass and takes home those numbers?
Yeah, that's a great point. We just rebranded, and I can talk more about the rebrand in a few minutes. But SightView is a new name. It's a new name for an older company that's been around for some years. And so we almost had this. We had this reset. We had eye care leaders of the old company, and all of a sudden we had a last trade show last year with as eye care leaders, and then so we got to rethink and really rebuild the trade show process. And, obviously the booth presence itself is important. Having good handouts, giveaways that people are actually interested in, which is hard because there's a lot of junk out there. No offense to my, giveaway logo printing partners and friends, but there's a lot of junk. And, so getting some, or there, everybody has pens, and pens are great. And we give away pens, but nobody's going to stop by the booth and strike up a conversation about a pen. But if we have some more interesting giveaways that there's value in, and people actually are interested in it, or maybe it's the dinosaur for the kid. There's a lot that goes into the planning. Fortunately, I was able to hire recently a new event specific marketer, because that is such a critical role for us. It goes into it just goes to show, like, that's the value in our industry. And so it's valuable enough to have a full-time position on our marketing team, our small marketing team. The other things are getting in front of as many people as you can before and after. So it's not a standalone. And that's something I really want to reinforce today, is that events are not a standalone channel. They are part of a multi-channel or omni-channel marketing plan. And so they're connected to email, they're connected to webinars, they're connected to other things that we're doing throughout the year. So we're generating a list throughout the year. We invite them to see us at the trade show. We're generating a list at the trade show. We're inviting them to join the webinar that's the next month. We're promoting the next webinar at the trade show, at the event. So it's really part of this bigger picture strategy. And so having an opportunity for people ahead of time to book an appointment, which, people may or may not actually come at the time that you say, but you reserve that time for them. And if they come then, great. If they come, they get held up somewhere else and they come an hour later or the next day, great. We'll still talk to them, of course. But just getting them to raise their hand that they want to come see you at the booth. And again, that's, for us, speaks to current customers and future customers. And then the event follow-up is obviously critical. And so that's really the key to me for success, is as much as important as the being at the show is, it's the pre-show and post-show, and just using it as part of our overall marketing channel strategy for the whole year.
Yeah, I think it could be tempting to see it as a standalone. And I know that, beforehand, I think a lot of times we're just thinking logistically of like showing up, being there on time, but we're not thinking about messaging ahead of time. And I have been to some events where I didn't know anyone and I met some people there, but man, would I have benefited from, the other times where I remember going to Dreamforce and not actually even going to Dreamforce, because I had set up so many meetings beforehand, and actually had a ticket that year. And I remember the next year not buying even a ticket because I didn't even have a chance to go check out the vendors because I was so busy with meetings. But it was great because all the people that wanted to chat, and we chatted, and we actually booked out a little cafe just down the street from the Moscone, like a little French bakery with, fresh coffee, and it was awesome. And it was just our little spot, and we invited people to, and we were able to do that with a smaller budget, and it didn't have to be buying out a whole block, right? It was just a smaller restaurant, and I think the owner actually took great care. He actually really enjoyed shooing people away and saying, "Sorry, we're closed, private event." But yeah, it was great. But yeah, like to your point, that pre-event isn't just the prep for yourselves, but how can we prep the people we're potentially going to meet?
Yep. And you never know who they know, and they might be mid conversation and bring somebody to your booth, and walking around with somebody that we hadn't invited, we hadn't connected in advance with the person that they're walking the floor with, but they stopped by together. And in your case, you were in town. The people that you met, you had advanced plans to meet with. There's a good chance that through that conversation, they were able to refer you to somebody or recommend that you meet with somebody else who's in town too. And so that's just another opportunity. To our first point, that cannot be replicated digitally. Like we can network online and social media, LinkedIn and all that, and recommend people and comment on each other. But what we're talking about cannot be repeated through digital events. These are the connections that come through in-person events.
Yeah, what is it? I mean, it's something about, I just think about how much more fun it was for me, but also being on the receiving end of, yeah, I'll get a free espresso, or, get a designer coffee. You and I, we're the black coffee from, 7-Eleven or Cumberland, but hey, the coffee's available, or grab a, breakfast something, or a fresh, salad or what. If we can help them out with a freshly squeezed orange juice, there's something about having a meeting in person over a delicious treat, or just something to like break bread. It's almost like back to that tradition, as opposed to just the Zoom meeting where I even offered you a coffee this morning, which you accepted, but I'll take a couple days for it to get to you.
Right. And that's it. Like the $5 gift card. Like again, we try to replicate these things. So you get a $5, maybe it's more like $7 gift card to Starbucks, like to join a meet. Like here, I'll treat my copies on me. Join, and like creative. I applaud the creativity and the innovation, and it's fun to see what people are coming up with. But the idea that it just doesn't do the same thing. Even if I do go take advantage of that Starbucks and meet on Zoom, get it before the Zoom meeting, that we're somebody who bought me that coffee. Like it's just not the same. So it's we're social creatures, and it is that idea of breaking bread. It goes a long way.
I've had some spam recently where they're saying, "I'll give you $50 Amazon card to take this phone call," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Uh, but I don't know. It seems different than I don't know. What's your take? Maybe not. You disagree with me. I don't
No,
know.
I'm
just
not a
confused
fan.
by it.
Personally, healthcare industry is highly regulated, so we can't do things like that. But I've worked places that can legally, but I just think it just incentivizes inflated inflated metrics around tire kickers. And so, yeah, you get, maybe the BDR team gets their meetings booked, but meets their goal there, meetings booked and meetings held, and the sales team built, and everyone, applauds those metrics. But if they're inflated, then what do you really get from them other than kind of wasting time? Like I've seen even $100, 100. There's a couple that are
Yeah, which one is
maybe
it?
right
Let me know.
135 right now. Seems like the magic number that I've seen floating around. I don't know where that number came from. Maybe they could get the budget for it, and it sounds like it's more than 100. I mean, so it sounds better, but I just don't see I personally don't take those. And I don't see the value in doing that, because you're just inflating numbers, and you're kind of giving yourself a false sense of accomplishment, achievement. That said, again, I can be proven wrong about it too. And, you give out a 10 of those for $100 a pop, and you book 10 meetings, and one of them becomes a customer, and with a lifetime value of 50, 60, 100 grand or more, pays for itself, you could argue. So it just, to me, I see that as inflated metrics and kind of a waste of everybody's time. But if it, if it works for people, maybe it is working. And I'm missing out. I'm the one missing out. Regulations for our industry notwithstanding.
Yeah, and that's probably better that it is, because pharma has enough problems on its hands.
Yeah. Everything in the healthcare industry, man, is just so hyper regulated, which is positive. I mean, it's for the best. There's a reason, and it's a good thing. But it can make marketing a little more challenging.
Yeah, tell me about that. Are there do you bump into that a lot, or not as much, because you kind of know what the guidelines are? And
Yeah, there are some things that we would like to do that maybe, like review sites, the G2s of the world that will do the gift card and incentivize a review, which totally different than incentivizing a meeting that you may or may not want to take. Incentivizing a review, I definitely see the value in, or giving a thank you for the reviews. And we can't do things like that. I mean, it's limiting, but knowing the limit, I think, and knowing the guidelines that we follow in is just knowing in advance. It's just another factor to keep in mind when we're planning. And you know what? Well, let's earn that review instead. Let's ask for it. And instead of, offering the reward for it, let's have a relationship with the customer such that they'll actually want to do it, even if they're not getting an Amazon gift card.
yeah, I love that you brought that full circle. I don't know if you realize you even did that, right? Just bringing it back. It was almost transactional with the gift card, but there's something where you bring it back to the connection, back to connecting with that person and getting beyond. I mean, what is it about? How do we get out? Why have we gotten out of this thing where we've gotten so abstracted behind the numbers that we forget to connect with people?
I mean, numbers are important, and metrics are critical. And I mean, there are ways to measure, of course, like customer satisfaction and on the marketing side, the pipeline and the metrics there, and number of touch points and meetings and everything. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's something for the connections that we have. And, as we did our rebrand, I think the biggest challenge of the rebrand, and, we had previous owners when it was iCare leaders who, weren't necessarily the best, I want to say this tactfully, that, weren't the best stewards of the company and of the products, and therefore of the relationships with the customers. And so part of the rebrand was to, change minds, change hearts and minds, improve our, rebuild our positive reputation, but kind of the marketing, or improve our reputation with our customers. Part of the marketing piece, that's the easy part to me, because we can say all the right things, but connecting that with our customer facing teams, our customer success team, our support team, saying what you mean and meaning what you say. So marketing can't go off and make these big promises about how everything's different and everything that we're doing differently and how we're more committed than we ever have before. And, all of the superlatives. Proof is in the pudding with the experience. And so, marketing doesn't want to overpromise as part of the rebrand. And so, and the customers want, it takes a lot of time to positive, a large number of positive interactions to earn a positive reputation, a good reputation. But it only takes one or two incidents, negative incidents, probably just one, to lose your reputation. And so that has been a challenge in what we're in the rebrand. Like, you can say all the right things, and of course the awareness around a rebrand is always a challenge. But yeah, getting people to believe that SightView is now a more positive. You're going to have a better experience. We're a better company under new ownership. We're a stronger company, and everything that we are saying that we're going to do differently, we actually have to prove it as a company. And marketing has to not make promises we can't keep and not set unrealistic expectations.
How do you do that?
Knowing the truth of the state of support and, the product, and it's just working with the different departments, working with the rest of the leadership team, and not making promises we can't keep. I'll bring this back full circle, back to the events. We're hosting a customer conference. We used to, before we were SightView, years and years ago, before I was here, I think 2018 and 2019, they hosted customer conferences. And even before that, but that's the most recent ones they've hosted. People really loved them. Customers really, really loved them. And they've asked, that's something we've heard from customers through the years, is that they want to be in the same room with the other users and learn from the other users of our products and learn from our team of best practices. And so we're bringing it back. That's something we heard our customers say, is they want this again. So we're delivering it to them. And so we're really excited. We're having it in 2025. So we're now here. Q1 of 2025. We're March 14th.
Q1.
Yeah, it's March 14th. We're ready for it. We're ramping it up. And we announced it as part of the rebrand last summer. And so, that's something that marketing can control. Is this is a promise. We heard your feedback. You liked having this from the customers. They liked having this customer conference. You as a group, put it on the calendar. Let's book it. And we're having it in New Orleans, where I personally live. And, we had a terrible tragedy here this weekend. It's right around New Year's that we're recording this. So, kind of take a moment and reflect where I it hit me throughout the day. And, but yeah, it's, my heart is here, and prayers for those affected here in New Orleans. But, we're going to be here, and SightView customers are coming in March. And that's something that, again, that's a promise that marketing can make. And I hate to sound like a politician, but promises made, promises kept. That's one example. Right. And so that's something that marketing can control. Obviously it's cross-functional team that's going to put together the content and the agenda for the conference. But, we've done surveys to hear what it's kind of a microcosm. This customer conference is kind of a microcosm for, what our customers want. So, and delivering what they want. So, we've done surveys to hear what type of sessions they want. And so we've planned some of those and installed them in the agenda. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a long-winded way of saying, like, marketing needs to work across the company, paint a positive but accurate picture, because if you overpromise, then you're going to underdeliver. And that's not a good way to earn a positive reputation.
Man, you're I can tell your experience. I mean, that was a beautiful, that's a soundbite right there. Yeah. Like, we must tell the truth. And I think, too often it's either the positivity in us in marketing to, hey, this is going to be great. Or, there's a darker side to it. Let's just get those conversions. But it's like, we must be grounded in the truth so that we can build that reputation, where people can trust. You buy for people you trust. And if they can't trust us, but you highlighted several different things that could happen that, you can erode that trust so quickly. And man, the overpromising though.
As a brand leader, that's something that any marketer is also, in the brand building business. But every interaction with your sales team, support team, customer success team, accounting team, anybody that they talk to, anybody that a customer talks to, even once, even infrequently, is representing your brand. And you need to, it's so much of it is out of marketing control, right? If there's a member of, the accounting team or, the billing team, the support team, that it's a positive experience. It could just be one negative experience. We hope they're all positive, but that's part of your reputation and part of your brand. And, sometimes you don't know about negative interactions until it's too late. Well, somebody leaves, they churn, and I had this terrible experience, 2 years ago. So I started shopping, and, I've really started, that's when I started to reconsider, and they didn't even tell you. And so that's just even more reason for every experience to be positive. And again, we're talking about events. People talk, what's your experience with this vendor? What's your experience with that vendor? And they're at the same show, and, I had a bad experience with them. I used to be a customer 5 years ago, and I had to leave for whatever reason. And so you're still paying the price for your past sins. Not that we shouldn't, but that just goes to show that the challenge is even bigger.
If you can at least be there, maybe you get the heads up ahead of time. Hey, we're not happy. Hey, or you just see they're not happy. Hey, let's talk it out, man. And much easier to do that in person than it is digitally. When why? Well, I'm just going to shop somebody else. So you get that feedback a lot sooner than the 90 days later when it shows up in a review or some scathing remark. You can maybe head it off at the pass, but you have to be there in order to accomplish that, or to be able to help change the reputation. Real quick, what's your number one tip for a rebrand?
It takes a lot more touch points than you think it's going to. When you think you're over communicating a rebrand, you're still not communicating enough. And no matter what, people are going to be confused. And that's okay. That just goes to show that there's more to it. We think we spend hours crafting the perfect announcing the SightView rebrand and rename email. This is a killer email, and everyone's going to understand it. There's a press release that it links to, and that was an obsessive process as well. Everybody's going to know who we are now. Everybody's going to be impressed because that logo and that everything the name, logo, everything that we put a ton of time into, nobody's ever seen it before. So it's exciting to unveil it, and to think that all of a sudden the customers in the industry and the market are going to be as excited as we are. Well, they're not. I mean, they're confused, if anything. And so who is the SightView? Oh, are they new? And, we also, we promote we promote our product names. So we have iMedicWare by SightView, My Vision Express by SightView. And so that's also like, people think of us as the product name. A lot of our customers think of us as our product's name, because that's the name they see in their interactions every day on their product. So it just adds that extra layer of potential confusion. So if you think you're communicating enough and reinforcing it enough, you're not even close. And if you think you're doing too much, then maybe you're doing enough. And it's just every interaction. It can be direct mail is another, for the right industries that have brick and mortar, like that's another underutilized channel in my opinion. And that's a good opportunity to write, to get in front of people, postcards, letters, something handwritten from the sales or customer success team. Those are just really nice, additional touch points that I think go kind of underutilized these days, which in a rebrand or a big name change like that is critical. Every chance you can get, take advantage of it to reinforce the new name.
Powerful words. Even just a reality check of, listen, not only are they not going to be excited at all, probably nearly as much as you are for sure, but they're probably going to be confused no matter what you do. So just understand that, see the challenge, see the opportunity, just go forward. But communicate your freaking butt off, because
and you never know where they're going to be confused. And this isn't, again, this is on me, not on the customer, but we had the customer ask, is SightView the name of the new customer portal, like where we log in to pay our bill and everything. Like, no, it's just funny it's like, where did that idea come from? Well, that just means that we didn't communicate well enough. We announced the new customer portal around the same time as the rebrand. So yeah, it's the new portal, the SightView portal, right? Like, I get where it all, and again, we think we're so clear, and you can write the clearest communication. You can write the clearest communication for somebody who's going to skim it on their phone and then forget about it for the rest of the day. And so they got one thing out of it, and it wasn't the most accurate. It wasn't the accurate, portrayal that we wanted. But that's not on them. That's on us. So the reinforcement, repetition and reinforcement, and that's just with our own customers. A rebrand for the industry wide is, that's when you make the bigger investment, the bigger splash in some of these events. Do, some banner brand ads, industry publications, and on LinkedIn to targeted audiences. But yeah, it's just when you think you're communicating enough, you're not communicating. You're not even close.
Man, that's powerful. I could see that being really helpful for people who are looking at the idea of potentially having to do that, and understanding it's a lot more of a lift than you think it's going to be, no matter what size company you are. A lot of what we just talked about were, like you were saying, we're the actual customers, the clients, and they're not excited and they're confused. So how much more would be the people who don't know you that much at all anyways, right? So really fast, dude. My next question is really like, who are you? Take me back in time, like little Nick days. Did you know you're going to be leading marketing, leading these rebrands, showing your team where to go? Like, Take me back. What was it like?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a New England kid. I live in New Orleans, but I grew up in Massachusetts. Stayed in New England to go to college. Went to Bowdoin College, met my wife there. Go Polar Bears. In liberal arts education, I studied German, minor in economics.
All right.
Perfect path to become a marketing leader, right? Like I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just, figured to like go to, and not the most practical, incur some debt, go to a liberal arts education, get a liberal arts education, and just learn to think and learn to read and learn to write and, and really analyze and perceive and figure it out after. And it wasn't the easiest road. Ended up, my wife is from New Orleans, so we actually just renovated this house that I'm in, that my wife grew up in, this old 150-year-old house or whatever. And, it's been a journey. My first marketing job was with a small advertising agency here in New Orleans, and agency life is its own beast. It's for some people, it's not for everyone. I knew it wasn't for me, but really love the foundations of strategy and storytelling and, and then really just clung on to that and always liked to write, always felt like I was a strong writer and, turned that into a B2B marketing career, got into tech and never looked back. So here I am today. But I think it's the combination. I mean, look, I studied German and economics. Like there's kind of this art and science demand gen. And that's where I got into, came up through demand gen, and there's the art and the copy, and there's the science and the quantitative side and in the metrics. And I think that's where really strong marketing comes together you can send thousands of emails, but if you can up that conversion rate, just that open rate and the conversion rate just a little bit with stronger subject lines and stronger copy that we can quantify through testing, A/B testing, and so there really is like, let's get the most creative. Let's test 5 creative lines, right? Creative subject lines. Let's test them out one by one. A/B test them against one another. And so you have the art in the copywriting and then the creativity, and you have the science and what actually is going to perform better. Cause I could look at 2 subject lines and say, hey, I like this one better. I think that one's going to have the bigger open rate. Well, let's see, let's prove it. Let's test it. And the subjectivity, my own subjectivity may prove me wrong. So, that's kind of where the science kind of meets that art.
I love the balance of that too, because it really can strip away the politics of it all, where you say, look, my idea is this, your idea is this, but I just want it to work. So if your idea, but let's prove it, not just a feeling, but let's prove it. And hey, if this thing shows an improvement, cool, we did it. It's as a team, so, there's something about that. So a bit of a hypothetical question for you. If you're ready.
I think so.
So yeah, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So next time you come visit, family, mass and whatnot, swing on up. We'll get some beer and some lobster and we'll play with a time machine. It's in the backyard, let's be honest. And so you get a chance to use this time machine, but it's a particular kind of time machine where you get to go chat with yourself a couple days after getting that German and economics degree, right? You get to talk to that Nick. What do you tell yourself? What kind of things would you share?
Yeah, I think two big things is stay open-minded. Don't think you have anything figured out. Don't think there's a path. As I said, I had no idea. Marketing wasn't on my radar. It wasn't until I ended up with that first marketing job as kind of a junior account executive at an ad agency that I knew that marketing was for me. And the other piece of that, is put yourself out there and have conversations, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Even if it's you're putting yourself in a situation that you've never been in before. So the reason I actually got that advertising job was because I went to a networking dinner, a young professional networking dinner at somebody's house, and the host introduced me to Glenda. Shout out to Glenda McKinley in New Orleans. Um, and yeah, I mean, the boss, I was introduced from the host to Glenda, and that's I met her for coffee, and then we met again, and she had an opening, and she hired me, and um, it would have been easier not to go to that networking dinner. That wasn't, especially back then, wasn't really my jam. I've gotten more comfortable doing it, hopefully getting better at it. But yeah, I mean, so be open to anything and put yourself out there, I think, are the two biggest pieces of advice. And just use every opportunity you can to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah. Dude, put yourself out there. It's like a muscle, right? Get to that event. Get to that event. Host one yourself, attend one, but make that connection happen. Dude, Nick, thank you so much for coming on here. Where can people connect with you? Where do they reach out to you? Where do you want them to check out SightView if they're in the
Yes.
just
They can
industry?
check out, hey, SightViewSoftware.com. It's spelled like it sounds, SIGHTVIEW.com. And I'm on LinkedIn at Nicholas dash Peddle, PEDDLE dash NOLA. Apparently there was another Nicholas Peddle out there who took it first. So I added NOLA to it, dash NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. Nicholas dash Peddle dash NOLA on LinkedIn.
All right, man. This is so good. We're gonna put that right in the show notes for those listening. Just click, click, click. That's how you get connected. But man, thank you for coming on here. This was fantastic to really, and what a way to start the year on this thing, just to geek out on connection and that in-person relationship that you can create, and also hearing the good, the bad, the ugly on Rebrand, dude. This has been fantastic.
Great. Keith, I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you for inviting me on. This has been a lot of fun. And this is also me putting myself out there, putting myself in a situation. You do this all the time. It's something you're clearly
Yeah.
comfortable with. I'm still flexing that, still building that that podcast muscle. So put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Ask me and anybody else listening. Put yourself out there.
Well, you know what? I don't know if you looked at it's like a time warp that, a whole hour just zips by, and then that's how you know that's like a good conversation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you would have fooled me. You'd be at the guy at the gym crushing the 100-pound dumbbell. I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. This has been great. So, for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else. One person's cool. Just someone who needs to hear this. Maybe they're going through a rebrand, or maybe their brand sucks and they should rebrand. Get this information to them, help them prepare. Maybe they reach out to Nick. Man, this is just so good. So yeah, definitely share this with someone else. And once again, Nick, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.